It looks really weird. Some guy has just pulled up his car, pulled out a camera and set up a chair and started just recording himself in the middle of public. But I really wanted to do it because of the background here. These leaves, they look pretty. In early May, I've got an appointment with a neuropsychologist where they're going to do a big cognitive test 12 months after I got diagnosed. And I've been worrying about that test. I was scheduled to have my first appointment with a geriatrician 3 weeks after that. I've been waiting for this geriatrician appointment for ages. Like when I got diagnosed, I went to my GP and the GP said, look, I'd prefer you see a geriatrician moving forward. But that was gonna wait a whole year before I could see him. I ended up getting a phone call just the other day saying, hey, we've got a spot available to see a geriatrician today. So I took it. I wasn't feeling very prepared for it though, because I have questions and stuff, and I was going to designate some time to for myself to go through and make sure I got questions that I could ask them, and I didn't feel like I really had time to do that then. I had spent the time that I had though just going through my symptoms that I'd previously been experiencing since my diagnosis, and made sure I had that written out in a clear way, and I went and printed that out. So I kind of thought I could just take that with me, I could write notes on it. I ended up just giving him that sheet of paper so he could write notes on it while we're in the meeting, the geriatrician. I've been nervous about these meetings, and one reason why I've been feeling nervous is because I kind of feel like, and this is, honestly, it's hard for me to say this out loud because I feel like people are not going to really understand it. So, but I'm just going to put it out there. I kind of feel like I'm going to get quite depressed if I find out I haven't got dementia. I wrestled with that for a little while, and it was around the time that I was making that last video. I was sort of wrestling with this thought about, what is with that? Why do I feel like I'm going to get? And it took me a while to get at it, but it was because I feel like I've just been struggling so much with things, just in life, just being able to do things, that if I haven't got the diagnosis, I won't be able to get help. With the diagnosis, you can get support with things, which to be honest, I haven't pursued, like things like NDIS, National Disability Insurance Scheme, and just to get the supports and stuff that you need because you are struggling with life. And I've sort of been really worried, going, shit, if I haven't got a diagnosis, what are the implications of that? The other part of it too, though, is that I also realise that I don't obviously want to have this. I also don't want to have the disease. That's the worst outcome of all of it. But I have so it sort of just felt like on both sides of it, this whole, especially with the neuropsych testing I want to have, and just this whole thing in my head right now, feeling like, is my diagnosis all under question? I have been stressed about these, and then when I have this geriatrician appointment, it's the same thing. It feels like the same thing, But anyway, I turned up with my dad, and the geriatrician had accidentally gone to the wrong facility, and so we had to wait around a bit longer. Dad had said, usually you're in and out pretty quick, and so I didn't quite know how much time, but it was quite empty in the room, and I thought that's probably a good sign. I probably got more time than what I think. So anyway, he turned up, the geriatrician, and it turned out that it was I forgot the name they give to them, but he's not fully qualified as a geriatrician. He said he's got about a year left. And anyway, so I sit down with him, and we've actually had heaps of time. Like I went through on my sheet of paper that I brought with me, going through the symptoms, and he also done a short neuropsych, short cognitive test as well. I don't know how long the appointment went for, but it went for quite a while. And then he said, okay, I'm going to give all this sort of information now to the geriatrician. And so this is the actual the qualified geriatrician, I guess you could say. And then he came in and we had a chat with him and both of them. That was sort of that's how the sort of structure of the session went. There's a few things I sort of want to just talk about in relation to that session. So one of the things that I thought was interesting was when he was asking me about my symptoms, I'm always just mindful of not making things seem worse than what they are, of not dramatizing it and not, trying to put it in perspective. I'm always trying to do that. And one of the things that I'd said is that, this last month I've been feeling a lot better and cognitively I'm been doing quite well. But then he asks questions about how I've been, and more specific questions about things that I've been doing. I just remember he asked very specific questions that about day-to-day sort of activities that I'd realised that, I am dropping the ball with that, and I am dropping the ball with that. And I can't remember what they are now. So in relation to that though, when he done the little little cognitive test, that then highlighted to me as well that even though I've been feeling much better, and just clear it in my head, like just knowing that my daughter was finishing work at 7:30 that night, just knowing it, it just felt so unusual. Because I'm never like that. Usually I just don't remember at all when she's finishing, and so I feel clearer in my head. But when I was doing these tests, I noticed that, oh no, I'm not feeling clearer I'm not that clear, and even when I am feeling clear, I'm not necessarily right. Like one of the questions they asked is what is the day of the week, and I got the day of the week wrong, but I didn't feel like that was wrong when I said it. But I actually performed quite well on the test, and I actually, I scored marginally better than I did 12 months ago. And this relates to the next thing I sort of wanted to talk about. Was I've been worried about doing this cognitive test, thinking how am I going to perform on it when I see the neuropsychologist. And when I was having a chat with the geriatrician, I told him about that, and he goes, look, and these tests they're very useful for us to gauge an indication of what's going on and stuff, but you have to take them with a grain of salt as well. Like you might perform quite well on that test. It doesn't mean you still haven't got dementia. It doesn't mean it changes your diagnosis in a sense. And I asked him more about that. I said, well, can't they just, because I was sort of talking about me just questioning the diagnosis, and you go, can't they just do a brain scan again? They identified issues in the PET scan originally. What if that's changed now? Or what if the MRI, it was said to be sort of clean the first time? What if they've seen issues in that now? Or, wouldn't that tell you more information? And he goes, there's no definitive test that we can do to say, yes, you've got it, or no, you haven't got it. He goes, I've seen cases where in the MRI, the brain looks like mulch, and yet the person's actually functioning perfectly fine in life. I've seen other cases where the brain looks perfectly fine and the person's clearly struggling. And so it's all just a matter of sort of taking all of this information together, the patient history, all this sort of stuff, and forming a conclusion of what you think, And so that just sort of made me feel like, one, I don't have to stress so much about this test. And who knows, maybe that's why he's saying it as well, And the other thing was, oh God, when cars go past and I lose my train of thought. Yeah, I might stick to just doing them out in nature. Let's just do that. Can we make an agreement? I thought this looked really pretty. It probably doesn't even look that pretty. Oh yeah, another thing too, this is another thing actually. He goes, look, the reason why you got your diagnosis, he goes, was because you'd had had some mental health issues, and then the mental health issues went away, and then you were still experiencing these memory and cognition issues. He goes, it's very difficult to tell for us if someone's experiencing, you know, anxiety and depression and things like that. Those things can really affect your cognition, you know, so much. And so it's very difficult for them to be able to say that you've got dementia when you're experiencing those things. Anyway, after sort of going through all the testing and sort of reporting on my experiences, then when we had that chat with the geriatrician later on, because they obviously went by themselves and talked for a bit, I had a chat with him later on, and he just said, I can't remember how I brought it up. I think it might have been even research. He sort of asking about participating in research. And one of the things I said, I sort of don't want to participate in research, because what happens if I haven't got it? You know, you're getting data from someone who hasn't actually got it, you know. So I did bring that up. That was at a different state. I'm getting it all confused now, what order of things are okay, but the key thing that he sort of said was, he says, no, you've got it. Like, it's not, we're going to see you in 12 months' time. The other geriatrician and their team who diagnose you, they'll see you one more time, essentially. But from now on, it's especially going to be, I'll see you in a year. Your GP will be the person who will sort of handle things. Let's increase your medication. After you do your cognitive testing again, though, let's increase it. And it was just a clear. It was a clear indication from another geriatrician that no, you've got this. And it's funny because it's not funny. I keep saying the word funny. It's not funny. It's interesting, I guess. I just spent the next 2 days feeling really sorry for myself. There was no feeling of, oh yes, I've got this diagnosis. I don't have to worry about, moving forward about what that means for getting access to service and stuff. There was nothing like that. I didn't give a shit. It was it was just and so I just felt crap for the next 2 days. Just feeling sorry for myself, having a pity party, essentially. I have been waking up a lot during the night, sort of around from like 2:30 in the morning onwards, and usually I've been trying to be proactive to make sure I get to sleep. And this time, I just thought, F it, what's the point? Just, do some doom scrolling. That's, really, yeah. Anyway, but that brings me back to the next point that I wanted to talk about, and it's my ability to give them accurate information when they ask you these questions during these meetings that you have with them. I have been having problems with my sleep, and I've been really tired during the day, and I've talked about that, relentlessly on these videos. But one thing I sort of have been saying a bit more is like, oh, my sleep at night's been okay, but really it hasn't been okay, and it's been largely down to, my sleep was actually a bit, I sort of thought more about it. I think my sleep has been bad since before my mental health went down in mid-November. Because I remember when I went to Sydney, which was just before I got depressed and stuff, I was waking up during the night then too. And I remember at that time thinking, oh, you know, shit, I was hoping I'd be able to sleep better here, to be exhausted during the day, you know. So I'd clearly obviously been having problems with my sleep before I got anxious and depressed and my mental health went down. But I fall asleep perfectly fine at night, and then I usually just sort of wake up around 2:30, something like that, all right? And I'd wake, and at that point I'd struggle to sleep properly. So I'd wake up, you know, three to five sort of times I'd sort of wake up. Anyway, I've been putting it down to probably like bad sleep hygiene though. And so this last month and a bit, I've been really forcing myself to make sure I'm doing everything I can to make sure that my sleep's good. Like, no, do not pick up your phone when you wake up at night. You know, it stays there. The only reason I pick it up was I'll put white noise on because that can help me a bit. So I'll chuck some white noise on. And I've been making sure I'm increasing my exercise, trying to be making sure I'm, you know, moving more so I'm physically more tired. But I have still been waking up. And so I brought it up when I was talking to the geriatrician. I said, yeah, I have been having problems with my sleep. And I'd sort of, up to this point, apart from, really been sort of dismissing it and thinking it's more mental health probably, or it's just bad sleep hygiene practices. But now I'm not convinced of that. I'm like, no, you've been doing everything right and it's still having these issues. And he asked me questions about that. And one of the questions he asked, he goes, do you wake up and do you need to go to the toilet? You know, and I said, oh, no. That night, I woke up, did my usual wake up thing and went straight to the toilet. And I've gone, I do this every bloody night. Here we go. You're really tuning in for some great content now, aren't you? And what he sort of answered at the conclusion of that, talking about that, was we'll get you to have a sleep test, a sleep apnea. And at the time, he didn't think it was likely to be about sleep apnea at all. But he goes, let's just get it done, and we can rule it out because it's an easy solution. If you are having problems, they could probably find an easy solution for it. Anyway, so then he sort of made a letter to my doctor and he put that in there. And so when I actually go see my doctor, I'm going to have to say, actually, no, I mean, yeah, I can do that test, whatever, but it's probably just something, I don't know, needing to go to the toilet as well. Although when I do go to the toilet, I still struggle to fall asleep. I still can't sleep properly. So I don't know. My point, what I'm trying to say is, very simple question. Do you get up to go to the toilet when you wake up at night? Completely gave him the wrong answer. And this is coming from a person who is genuinely just trying to give accurate information without any motive behind anything. I'm just trying to give them the accurate information, a very simple question. And I'm not blaming this on dementia at all. I'm just saying it shows how difficult it is to get accurate patient information. You know, it must be a nightmare for doctors to try and get the right information. Okay, there's lots of cars now. Well, why are people? Oh, it's nearly 8 o'clock. Why do people exist? Get lost. I think there's probably other things that I know there's other things. Happens every time. I know there's other things I want to talk about. I can't remember them right now. I'll pause it and have a little think. I can't think of what else I wanted to talk about, but I'm clearly a worrier and thinker about all this stuff. I think it's pretty evident now. I'm not sure if most people really think. I think I just think too much about stuff, and I'm not sure if others are. If you're having some sort of condition and stuff, are you a worrier? Do you think about this shit as well? I think the best solution to all of this is to not be like that and, just go live life kind of stuff, but it's easier said than done.
Daybreak, I'm already miles away, and there's nothing left to say.